Back to you as you have it. I want to go now to Tony Perkins, who we happen to be fortunate enough to have with us here in the studio today. He's the president of the Family Research Council. And what an important day for faith, and what a challenge to it for those families. Tony?
Megyn, no question, as a father of 5 kids, I can tell you my heart is broken for those families. And as a former police officer that has been at crime scenes before, I can only imagine the stress that these officers are going to have in processing this crime scene. You're absolutely right. In times like these, we see communities across the country turn to faith. Churches begin to open their doors. They reach out, and it's a part of the grieving process as this continues to unfold. Many people are going to be trying to make sense of this, and you can't. There's some things in life you simply cannot make sense out of, and this is one of those senseless acts of violence. And our team, our staff in Washington today, we're gathering even in this hour praying for these families up there, because most of us have kids, and every American is touched by a tragedy like this.
And the Family Research Council was targeted not long ago by a madman who went in and shot the guard, and he's okay now.
He's back to work.
But you in a way have been the victim of violence. You've experienced violence. But Dr. Abloh was on earlier talking about, the depravity that we're seeing now, and sort of this disconnection that some people just feel from society, whether it's because we've become so obsessed with online things and alternate realities and gaming, whatever it is. I mean, it's just America looks very different than it looked 30 years ago. We don't interact with each other the way we used to, and faith has been diminished as well. And that's not to diminish the position that is held by atheists, which is valid and to which they're entitled, but faith has been something that's been a common thread in America that's bound us to one another for so long.
It has been that common thread and we find it in times like these. In tragedies, that's where we turn to, because it is really a part of who we are as a people, but it's also innately we have this need to reach out and make sense of these things, and it's only when we trust our Creator and those that have a relationship, a relationship with Christ, or have a sense of spirituality, whatever they may describe it. But most importantly, as I come from the evangelical world, it helps us process this grief, because
it helps us look out for one another.
It does. It helps on both sides.
Even if you go to church just to bind with the community, to have that shared experience. It could be a concert, the shared experience of up and down and together and bonded, but we need to have that bond.
It keeps us accountable as individuals. It keeps us connected as a community. And that's why faith has played such an important role in America. And you're right. We see a callousness, we see a coarseness of our society that should be troubling to all of us. There is no simple answer. If I were to sit here and say, well, religion would solve all of our problems. A religion won't solve our problems. We can make sense of life, and we have a relationship with Christ, obviously, as an evangelical, and a history in this country with a Judeo-Christian worldview. That makes sense for us individually, but as a society we've moved away from that, and it is important that we bring that back in and not exclude it from the public square, because it is a part of that accountability. It is a part of looking out for one's neighbor, and who knows what motivated this guy to do this, but we need to be looking out for others. We need to be looking out for things that are not right in our community, and having a moral standard of what's acceptable and what's not. Clearly, this is not acceptable. I don't think anybody in America would say it is. But how do we prevent tragedies like this from occurring again?
Yeah. And you mentioned a good point. A lot of people they go to temple, they go to church on a day like this and just look to connect with their fellow human beings, to remind themselves that we are here together, that we have this shared experience, and that there, for some of us, is a higher power who will help us through it.
We should all be praying for these families today, because they are going to be grieving. And as a parent of a 5-year-old, I can tell you that my heart's broken for them.
And pray for the little souls, the little angels. Tony, thank you. We're going to take a very quick break. We will be back in moments with Dr. Keith Abloh.